You are listening to WPHM Digital Broadcasting. The best in paranormal talk radio.
Welcome to Paraversal Universe, where all paranormal perspectives apply. Known paranormal historian and ufologist Kevin Malek and psychic demonologist Jennifer Malek, as they navigate us through the different categories of the unknown and the unexplained, including ghosts and haunted places, cryptids and monsters, aliens and UFOs, theology and mythology, metaphysics, forbidden archaeology, urban legends and folklore, conspiracies, crimes, and corruption, with top analysis from the experts of these disciplines. If it's amazing, unusual, or mysterious, if it's bizarre, creepy, and fantastic, if it's unbelievable, paranormal, or supernatural, it's here on Paraversal Universe. Here are your hosts, Kevin and Jennifer.
Hello, everyone. Whether it's morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are, welcome to Paraversal Universe, brought to you by the Northern Wisconsin Paranormal Society Limited at the Northwoods Paranormal Resource Center here in Rhinelander, Wisconsin. We're your hosts, Kevin and Jennifer Malek.
Hello, everybody.
Paraversal Universe is produced by Kat Hobson, the voice for Fate Magazine Radio, over at WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. We are also heard on WCET 101.7 FM, Columbia Talk out of Columbia, South Carolina, High Point Radio 100.5 FM and 1620 AM out of New Jersey, the Rift Radio Network family out of Lakeside, Virginia, and the Amelia Pisano Productions out of Toronto, Canada. So welcome one and all, and thank you, everyone. And hello to everybody in the chat room. We look forward to your questions and comments as always. The archive for the show will be available as well. Show archives from over the years can be found in various places on the web, including our archives like page on Facebook called Paraversal Universe Show Archives. Also check out our guest promo page, Paraversal Universe Radio, for what's coming in the near future. We hope everyone is doing well. The weather is finally warming up here in northern Wisconsin. We are due for spring. We have an awesome show for you coming up. We have Claire Waters standing by. But first, before we bring her out, as always, let's do our shout-outs. Shout-outs go to those people who share our show banners this week. We always appreciate it greatly, and thank you kindly. So who do we have, Jen?
This week we have Walt Christos, Thoughts of Christos, Katrina Cooper, Rhodey Speak, Dennis Koch, Jason Bland, Paranormal Soup, Jamie Demelos, JJ Paranormal, Josh Chairs, Metaphysical Bounce, Howie Odell from The Orion Effect, Kat Hobson at WBHM, Lawrence Demiza, Jean Broida, Lisa Reynaga, The Rift, Sudan, Lori Kreslaw, Gavin Lee Davies, and Trish Freudel.
Alrighty, thank you guys very much. We can't tell you how much we appreciate that. It helps get the message out even more. Alrighty. So joining us today is Claire Waters, author of the book Raising Faith, which is about one family's extraordinary experiences with their young daughter's ability to communicate with spirits and the inspirational lessons learned by their journey. Claire has two young children, Faith and Tom. When the children were 4 and 2 years old, respectively, Claire learned of their psychic intuitive abilities, and she subsequently began a journey to learn as much about psychic matters in the spirit world as possible to help and support her two children with their gift. Since that time, Claire's own psychic abilities have started to develop. If your family is blessed with psychic abilities, this book will help you feel comforted to know that you are not alone, and offers practical suggestions to guide you through some of those challenges of living with psychics. Sounds good. Shall we bring her out?
Yes, let's bring her out.
Claire, are you with us?
I am. Hi, Kevin. Hi, Jennifer.
Hi, Claire. How are you? Welcome
I'm
to
very well,
Paraversal.
thank you.
I'm sorry. Welcome to Paraversal Universe.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on.
So we usually ask our first-time guests how they got into their respective fields. With you, however, we should ask how this all started. I guess if you could take us back to the beginning of all this.
Yeah, sure. Well, I was loaned a book, actually. It's the famous book Brian Weiss wrote about Many Lives, Many Masters, to do with past life regression.
Right.
And it wasn't actually a topic that I was familiar with or involved with. I was quite a practical, down-to-earth person. I hadn't really been involved with psychic matters before or anything spiritual, really. And the book fascinated me. I mean, it gripped me to the point where when I finished the book, I actually approached the resident hypnotherapist at the clinic where I was the resident homeopath and asked him about past life regression. And I had a nice chat to him about it, and he gave me some examples of how he'd used these methods. And he suggested maybe if I wanted to know any more, that I should speak to the psychic medium that he knew as a patient. And obviously, for confidentiality, he had to approach her first and check she would be happy to contact me, which she did. And she agreed to come over to my house and answer any questions I may have. And I was quite nervous. I've never met a psychic medium up till that point before. And I was wondering, what does she know about me? And is this okay? And anyway, she came over and answered lots of my questions. And it was during this visit when she told me that my own children were also psychic mediums, which was a complete bolt out of the blue. It wasn't anything I'd ever come across before. I wasn't sure what to think when she told me. So that's kind of how it started, was someone telling me. It wasn't from the children giving me examples that they might have this gift.
So where do you live now? What's your community like?
We live in a small village in North Hampshire, which is in the south of England. It's very rural, very villagey, very cottagey, very quaint and pretty. We have moved actually in the last couple of years. So when all of this started, we lived in a slightly bigger village nearby. And it's the kind of place where it's quite a conservative place. I tried to mention this to some people in the community, but it wasn't really that welcome. They just looked at me like I'd gone slightly bananas. I don't live in an area that is very spiritual. I don't live in an area where these sort of topics are welcome. There are places in England that are a lot more open-minded to these matters, but where we live is not one of them, which presents some challenges.
Yes, most definitely. And we can talk a little bit about that as we go along too. What were some of the initial questions you had regarding all this when you spoke with the medium and just in general?
I mean, I think for me it was a question of, is this real? Is it possible to have past lives? Is it possible to reflect back on past lives and to heal them? And, how would this happen? And it was everything and anything. I mean, this was a brand new topic for me. This was the first time I'd ever had anybody to talk to about these sorts of subjects to do with spiritualism and psychic mediumship, and just to try and understand, how that works. When you come from a place where that's never been discussed before, I know from where I'm at now to how I was then, and I raise it with people now, and they have so many questions because to people who've not been involved in this world, it is just completely bewildering. They don't know where to start. They just don't get it at all. So I really did start from that place where I wanted to know everything and anything. And, for me, most importantly, I wanted to understand what my children were going through. The main purpose to me asking questions was, she's telling me that my children are psychic mediums. What does that mean? How can they be? How can I not know about this? What are they involved with that I'm not aware of? And if people are visiting them, who's visiting them? Because immediately as a parent, your concern is for your children, and what do you mean? Is this ghosts? Is that what this is? Are they ghosts? What do they want with them? Are they good? Are they bad? Are they male? Are they female? There's a gazillion questions I think I had once she'd opened that door for me and said that the children had these abilities too. But yeah, generally at the time, I just wanted to understand more about past lives. And the strange thing was, I guess this was all meant to be, because I didn't really know what I'd invited her round for, other than I'd been fascinated by a book. I'd phoned someone who did past life regression, and I was expecting just to have a few question and answers with him. And then he put me in touch with this psychic medium. And to this day, I'm not quite sure how that came about. I guess it was just meant to be. It was part of the journey for me to learn what I needed to learn. And when she came over, as I say, I was mostly filled with fear about, what does a psychic medium do? What do they already know? What will she be like, So when she then came into my home and announced that my children had this gift, I kind of wished I hadn't invited her into my home, in all honesty. It was, I was like, scrabbling around for the words, wondering, what do I say to this? How do I answer this? And not be impolite or disrespectful. The thing is, my mother as a child had been to see the odd psychic medium. And so I guess I was raised with the understanding that, they were amazing. Their gifts were incredible. I never doubted their abilities, but I was definitely frightened. I was definitely fearful, and it wasn't for me. And I even remember one occasion as a teenager when my mother had booked me an appointment with this lady, this psychic medium she'd been to see. And when she came home and told me, I remember being really quite cross with her, in my very teenage words, telling her in no uncertain terms I was not going to see this psychic medium, thank you very much. To me at the time, it just seemed like looking into the future, and I didn't want to know. And I wasn't convinced it should be meddled with in that way. So at the time, that was what I thought. And so I'd always avoided seeing a psychic medium. So having this lady come to my house was a very new experience for me. And everything that she brought with her in terms of her knowledge and explaining about that world was completely new for me. And I was fascinated, absolutely fascinated. I didn't particularly challenge or question. I'm not really wired that way. And I guess, unbeknown to me, I've always been a little bit psychic in that I've always used my intuition, as we've all got the ability, and I've always trusted that. So when she was with me and she was telling me whatever she was telling me, everything and anything, I just listened. I was just fascinated. I do have a genuine interest in people. I'm a homeopath by profession, so I love listening to people and their stories. I love understanding why people are the way they are. And so for me, listening to her talk was fascinating, albeit slightly scary for me, and even more scary when she then mentioned what the children could do. So yeah, it was amazing. Just a little disturbing. She arrived with sort of dark circles under her eyes, and I'm still to this day not quite sure what had happened to her, but she was a very nervous lady who, as I understand, didn't leave her house very often, which I thought was a bit unusual, but okay. She came in, sort of wandered around. She said to me, I've already wandered around your house in my mind. And again, I just thought, well, how do you do that? I don't understand. How is that even possible? But no, because she was quite nervous of going anywhere, she would visit places in her mind's eye before she came. So she was comfortable on arriving. But to me, I'd never heard of this before. So this just sounded slightly crazy. And so, this lovely lady came very kindly